Welcome in, everybody. Michigan State Spartans live here on the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Ryan Elke, and welcome into another beautiful day to be a Spartan. It's lovely to be here. It's Thursday, July 23rd, episode 10. A lot of fun things to talk about. First, I was just watching, friend of the show, John McElroy, who's Detroit Lions on SI. Covers the Spartans here and there. He's going through, he was just denied his Lions media credentials. They took him away. And as we talked about with John when we had him on a couple weeks ago about not pulling punches when asking questions for the fans, and how, I kind of do the same thing when I'm with, in those Michigan State press conferences, of wanting to ask the questions that you guys want answers to, because ultimately I think that's what those press conferences are for. The traditional media members that are there, they have to write their game recap, so they're going to get some questions off that are very particular, very niche, but that's what they want to focus on. And then when it gets to some of the bigger picture things, like, sometimes they try to dance around it, but I'll give credit to some of the Michigan State media, like some that they're very blunt with their questions, but I like to try to get the answers that you guys want. So as we go through this journey here, and as the season progresses, if there's things you guys want to know about this team, about what's going on, especially after the game, first follow me on Twitter, Ryan EL_key. As we flip that banner down below to the correct one, follow me on Twitter. Hit me up, like, especially during the game. You guys, you're wondering what the heck happened here, what the heck happened there. Let's get to the bottom of it, because that's really what we should be wanting out of these press conferences, is answers from the fans. Like, hey, and that's like, especially like the last 3 years with Jonathan Smith, it got to the point where it's like, how do you win a fan base back that just didn't care anymore when you were the head coach? So I hope you guys will be along on this journey with me. As for the show today, what we're going to talk about, well, there's a couple of things to talk about. First, we can give an update on the lawsuits that are coming in about granting a fifth year, and some Spartans have joined that lawsuit. Some former Spartans have joined that lawsuit, and the NCAA kind of came out, made an announcement today on those lawsuits. Not that that means much, but then I found some fun lists on Twitter featuring some Michigan State players that want to dive into, but mainly we're going to look at the schedule and look at a certain 4-game stretch that will make or break this Spartan season, because it's normally the same 4-game stretch that has broken the Spartan season right from the bat. So we're going to dive fully into that. But first, the news and notes of the day. There's been some lawsuits going around of players, mainly college basketball players, filing a lawsuit petitioning for a fifth year because of the new NCAA rules, the 5 and 5. You're granted a fifth year of eligibility. Pretty much any 4-year senior that graduated this year, they caught some really bad luck, because they were just 1 year removed from getting that COVID year that a lot of players were granted, and now they're 1 year before the 5 and 5 comes into play. So there are 2 former Spartans that were a part of this lawsuit, and one being Jackson Kohler. And there's been some articles out there, some tweets about, well, if Kohler is granted this fifth year, would he come back to Michigan State? There's rumblings that BYU's in the mix. Jackson Kohler from Utah got to play with the Utah Jazz for the summer league, finally being back home. So I think it's a real possibility for Jackson Kohler if that fifth year is granted. I think it does become a 2-team race of BYU or Michigan State. He can come back to a place where He's known, he's loved, he knows the coaching staff, he knows how everything goes, and we'll welcome him in with open arms. And with BYU, it's a chance for him to be home. Play in his home state, and for his family, for his parents to not have to fly out to Michigan that many times in a year, because the Kohler family, the Kohler parents, they did fly out for every game. They were there for every single home game. So maybe for a chance for the family to experience a year of a little less travel, but to watch Jackson play basketball. And, they do have a younger son coming up in high school as well. So to kind of be able to stay at home and take care of that, I could see Kohler looking at Baylor's, or not Baylor, excuse me, BYU as well. The other former Spartan that's kind of been in the headlines the last few days, that's also a part of this suit, is our good old friend Trey Holloman. Yes, he is part of that eligibility suit going on right now. And he was back in the Lansing area as he participated in Moneyball this past week. He was with the Magic for the Summer League this year, got to play with Jace Richardson. So Holloman is also part of that suit, but it's now become an interesting dynamic because all of a sudden he came back to Moneyball. Like he's in East Lansing, and I believe he revealed to the reporters of Moneyball that were there at Moneyball that he's now living in Lansing. He had a daughter this past year, and he's staying up in the Lansing area right now, just trying to see what's next. And I think that was a situation to where when he went into the transfer portal, we were obviously all shocked. And some of the comments that came out afterwards about when you get a true leader that believes in you, what is it? The sky's the limit or something. And obviously MSU fans, we took offense to that. It's like, come on, Tom Izzo treated you right. He treated you well. You got conned by the ultimate con man in college basketball, and that's Will Wade. And it seems like Holloman and Izzo still have a great relationship. It seems like they kept in contact throughout the whole season, and probably just keeping Trey's head on straight as he went to NC State, and that the year didn't go as planned. Trey Holloman wanted to go to a team and be the starting point guard and lead a team to the NCAA tournament. What ended up happening, he got bumped to the 2 guard, then bumped to the bench. So it seems like a little like that's the one of the ugly sides of the transfer portal, is that you're promised these bill of goods, but when push comes to shove, so these coaches, they don't care about the promises they made in March or April or February or January, whenever they first reach out to you. They don't care about what they said there. They care about that week, that game. So if Holloman is granted that extra eligibility, is he eyeing Michigan State? Is there a spot for him on this roster? And how would us fans take Trey Holloman back? It was a very salty exit. We felt hurt by it. So it would fans be opening their arms for Trey Holloman to come back to the Spartan team if that happens? Because the NCAA did come out with their comments today that that they're moving forward to 5-5, and despite the lawsuits coming in to grant that extra year of eligibility, they have no plans to make amendments for those players. Kind of like sorry, out of luck. Which I understand the NCAA's stance on that. Like, as much as I'd love Kohler to be back here, or for if Cooper could have got an extra chance at an extra year here, that would have been wonderful. But you kind of you missed that window. You were in that weird window where you didn't get the COVID year, and you're not getting the 5-5 year. So I directly benefit us if that came into play. It is what it is, and that's kind of where I'm at the point with a lot of these NCAA rules and these lawsuits coming in. It's just, it is what it is, man. It's like the people back suing for possible NIL money. It's like I get it. You could have made your millions, but like you missed the window. That's just what life is. Sometimes you just miss those windows, and you can go back and try to fight for it, or you can, just move on, and for Kohler to hopefully get a G League opportunity or an overseas opportunity. Same with Trey Holloman. Wish them nothing but the best, and we'll see what happens, because we know the NCAA's record in lawsuits as well. It ain't great. It ain't pretty. So, but that's enough of the news and notes today. One thing I did want to bring up before we get into the 4-game stretch that will make or break MSU season, there was a couple of fun tweets here, some lists that were going around, and I'll bring up the first one here. It's from, I think it's Big Ten Huddle, where these tweets were from. Yes, the Big Ten Huddle. That's where they are on X. And this one is the top 100 Big Ten players heading into this season. I know it may be hard for you guys watching that, whether it's on your computer, on your phone, on your TV, squinting, looking for names you recognize. There's a spoiler. There's only 2 Spartans on the list. At 35, there's Cam Edwards. And then if you keep scrolling, go all the way down, all the way to the right, you're down right at the bottom of your screen, number 97, Jordan Hall. That's it. According to Big Ten Huddle, those are the top 100 players in the Big Ten. Michigan State has 2 of them. And if you're looking for familiar names, Nick Marsh is number 62. He is in that stretch in that third column of those Indiana players. He's right smack dab in the middle there. So is there anyone particularly missing that you're upset that is off this list? Like, obviously you want Alessio on there, but a little more to prove, I think, for Alessio to really make a stance on this list. I didn't peruse the list too much. I was just looking for Spartans of just more like, all right, who is there anyone we can really argue about that, who should really be on this list instead of that person? But honestly, right now for Spartans, they're improvement mode. So that's from the Big Ten Huddle, and Big Ten Huddle put up another, so not necessarily a list. It was just a stat, and I thought it was a fun stat because we did talk about this in the last episode a little bit when it came down to Alessio and kind of winning the team in those first few starts of standing in and learning to take a hit and delivering a pass. And so here's Big Ten Huddle's best under pressure PFF grade. And as you can see right at the top is Alessio Miljevic with best under pressure with a 68 PFF grade from last season. Damon Williams, number 1, Julian Sand, number 2. And then, we can, look who's last down there. Aiden Childs, Northwestern, 31.6. And these are just the projected started QBs on this list. So that's why, the big word projected is there. Caton Hauser, though, Illinois at 64.5. And Aiden, just look at that top and bottom of that list from at the start of last year. Aiden Childs with that 31.6 pressure rating. And then we switched to Alessio, and his under pressure rating is 68, second best in the Big Ten. I mean, that's just a huge stat just to marvelize at. Just to see this redshirt freshman that came in and dealt with the offensive line that us Spartans had last year, and to come in and put up a stat like that is remarkable. So I just want to share that stat with you because, finally putting the numbers to it and realizing Alessio was, the number 2 quarterback in the Big Ten last year under pressure. and what that could mean this season. Allergies catching up to me. So just want to share that's that. Thank you, Big Ten Huddle, for these two stats that we use today. But welcome back in Michigan State Spartans Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Ryan Elke. We are live every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. right now, just through the off season. Like and subscribe, guys. Leave some comments. Just what you want to talk about here before the season starts. If there's any subject that feels like that no one has really touched on, that's just you've been pondering throughout this off season. As we get closer to the season, we'll add in another day of shows, kind of shuffle the schedule around to kind of best fit, the football schedule. We'll be going live after games, maybe a while after the game, as I'll be traveling home from the game, but we'll go live as soon as I get home, talk it out. We'll have one earlier in the week, kind of recap and preview, and then we'll preview the next week. So that's kind of the schedule. That will be the schedule once football season, gets going. But as for now, we're live Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 p.m. Michigan State on the Voice of College Football Network. Subscribe there. Go to Facebook, the Voice of College Football. We're on the main channel. We love it. We love the partnership here. And you can follow me on Twitter, RyanEL_Key. And you can leave your questions there. You can leave your questions in the comments now. But now for what I wanted to really dive into today, and that's this 4-game stretch that is going to make or break Michigan State's season. Because I think we all know where the breaking point is in the season, because honestly, the seasons haven't lasted too long in East Lansing the last few years. We have a fun couple of games, then there's 2 months of suck, and then we might win the last one. That's just how it's gone since 2022. That's just what it is. So when we look at the schedule now, the 4-game stretch that is going to make or break this season, I think it starts right after Notre Dame. Like, we have Toledo, we have Eastern, and Notre Dame. I feel like we know what we're penciling in on the schedule game. We're penciling a 2-1 start. Contrary to belief, what the college football simulations are, how our season's going on those videos on the channel, the Michigan State Voice of College Football Network. Check out those College Football 27 simulations of the season. First 3 games are posted: Toledo, Eastern, Notre Dame. Despite how those games went on the simulation, we're all expecting a 2-1 start. So I think starting September 26th, you have Nebraska at Wisconsin, Illinois, Northwestern. That 4-game stretch, that third of your season right there, that's the defining point of the Spartan season. Like, we'll know probably by October 3rd, maybe even September 26th, how this season will go. And it's scary to kind of put that pressure right there on Pat Fitzgerald and this team, but when you look at those games, you have Nebraska home versus Nebraska, coming off that Notre Dame game. You have a road trip to Wisconsin, home versus Illinois against your former quarterback, Caden Hauser, then home versus Northwestern against former quarterback, Aiden Childs. Those 4 games will decide how this season will go. Because as we saw last year, we went, 2-0, or went 3-0, lost 8 straight, and then won the final game versus Maryland. For other seasons, in 2024, you win your first 3 games, you beat FAU, you beat Maryland, you beat Prairie View, you lose 3 straight: Boston College, Ohio State, Oregon. Kind of set back the season. In 2023, same thing. You win your first 2 games, you beat CMU, you beat Richmond, then you go off and you lose 6 straight. Washington, Maryland, at Iowa, at Rutgers, blanked by Michigan, at Minnesota. 2022, same thing. Beat Western, beat Akron. Go to Washington, lose. Lose to get mollywopped by Minnesota at home. Lose at Maryland. Get lost at Ohio State. Like it's been that first Big Ten stretch of the schedule. These last 4 years that have tanked Michigan State season right at the start. So we'll know early on in this schedule how we're going. Like we should expect wins versus Toledo, Eastern, Northwestern is Notre Dame is a tall task. But for MSU to be successful, it'll at bare minimum 2-2 through that. But you have three of those games are home games. And I know, like, obviously, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Northwestern are also looking at this schedule. They're penciling us as a win for them. But to really turn things around and show that that Pat Fitzgerald is running a serious program here, 2-2, 3-1, hell, 4-0. We can't come out of that 4-game stretch with a losing record, especially 3 of those being home games. Because the schedule does get immensely tougher after that. Going to UCLA. UCLA gave us big problems last year. Going to Michigan. No matter what we think about them, it's going to be a tough game. Hosting Washington. Get Oregon on a Friday night and then at Rutgers. Some of the season may not matter if you tank that 4-game stretch to start Big Ten play. Start 0-4, you're sitting there at 2-5 of the season. Like we're just back, time is a flat circle at that point. That's the meat and potatoes of your schedule right there. It isn't the marquee games. These aren't the sexy games. It's not the ones we try to plan to get tickets for or go to tailgating. These are the ones that we're, where there's still nice weather we're going out for and can start Big Ten play with some nice wins. Nebraska is going through replacing a quarterback right now. Wisconsin under Luke Fickell has been severely underwhelming. Illinois is a tough out. They are, but for some reason, I'm sure you're in the same boat as me. Illinois seems gettable. Maybe it's ignorance. Maybe it's the whole, they're not a football school. But yeah, they are a gettable team, especially with that game at home. And I don't think we could suffer a loss to Northwestern with Aiden Childs as the quarterback and Chip Kelly in a hard hat and a purple construction vest. So that's the 4-game stretch that will tell us how serious this season is going to go. Because after that, the 4 games after, I said, at UCLA, Michigan State on the West Coast, it ain't pretty. At Michigan, who knows what that team will look like. They're kind of in, they went 9-4 last year, but things are still up in the air for what that program is. Kyle Whittingham there, what kind of step forward or backwards is Bryce Underwood going to take this year for that game to be a game? So that was a toss-up. But then host Washington and Oregon, those are 2 really tough games. So it's that stretch right there in the middle from September 26th, October 17th. We'll find out what this Michigan State team is in the 2026 season. But just love looking at the schedule, though. We're so close to football, less than 50 days away. I welcome you in if you've been here the whole time or if you've just jumped in. Welcome to Michigan State Spartans Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Ryan Elke. We've gone over a lot today, but a lot it's been about that 4-game stretch that will make or break this season. and it's Nebraska at Wisconsin, Illinois, Northwestern in those 4 games, taking on 2 former quarterbacks, projected starters in Caton Hauser with Illinois and with Aiden Childs at Northwestern. I think for our own sanity, we need to go 3-0 in these quote unquote revenge games against former quarterbacks with Noah Kim at Eastern as well to survive this season. And so that's the 4-game stretch that will make or break MSU season. We also talked about today, Big Ten Huddle over there on Twitter. They released their top 100 players of the Big Ten heading into the 2026 season. Michigan State, 2 players on the list. Cam Edwards at 35, Jordan Hall at 97, former Spartan Nick Marsh at 62. And then the surprising stat of the day, if we go Dan Patrick style, stat of the day. Alessio, number 2 in the Big Ten of quarterbacks playing this year, projected starters. QB rating under pressure. He was at 68 last year. Aiden Childs was at 31. That puts him last in the Big Ten of starters for this season. And I'm just excited for Alessio. So next week, though, Big Ten Media Days, Michigan State. They're on Tuesday. I believe media days are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Michigan State is Tuesday. So Tuesday, we'll talk a lot about what was said at media days, what Pat Fitzgerald said. Let's see. I'm sure it's Jordan Hall, Alessio, and, they're going to be the player representatives for Michigan State. So we'll have everything that they said at media days and kind of what the news has been from media days. See if it will be as eventful as the SEC media days, talking about just because the Big Ten's won the last 3 national championships that they're not the best conference. We still are. And I mean, it's just the SEC. I mean, imagine if Big Ten coaches were trying to say that during the SEC's title runs. That just because you've won, just because we haven't won a championship 15 years doesn't mean you're the best conference. Like, imagine if Big Ten coaches try to puff their chest out like that. It's embarrassing. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see what the Big Ten coaches have to say. Going second to the SEC in media days, there will be a lot of fun questions to be asked to these coaches. And, the SEC and it felt like a Real Housewives, show going on, like a reunion show instead of actual media days. Because was it John Summerall, Florida, trashing a reporter because their phone went off in the middle of a press conference as if, the reporter purposely set his phone off. You have Lane Kiffin and Pete Golding, fighting through comments, through the media. So I don't think we'll get anything as spicy through the Big Ten media days, but it'll be fun just to hear from Coach Fitzgerald and the Michigan State players and, kind of the change this offseason. And to have your 2 marquee guys being Jordan Hall and Alessio being the spokespeople, and especially Jordan Hall, his 3rd head coach here under Michigan State, of just what it means to be a Spartan and how excited he is to be with Pat Fitzgerald this season. So we'll have all of that for you on Tuesday that's Michigan State's day at Big Ten Media Days. I'm going to try to get a guest for next Thursday as well, but, we're going to go and we're going to enjoy our weekend, and we'll be back Tuesday at 9 p.m. We're every Tuesday and Thursday live 9 p.m. here on the Michigan State Voice of College Football Network. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I thank you all for watching, whether it's on YouTube or it was on Facebook. I'm going to work to get us on TikTok here. Just got to figure out with the company what the best way to go about it is. So we're going to try to get ourselves in more places here before the season. I thank you all for joining us tonight. We'll be back Tuesday talking Michigan State Big Ten Media Days. I'm Ryan Elke. I'm your host of Michigan State Spartans Live. Follow me on Twitter, RyanEL_Key. And we'll be back Tuesday, 9 p.m. with Michigan State Spartans Live. Thank you guys, and go green.